If you have a concern about your child saying the R sound, I have many different tips and tricks and practice activities that you can do at home. Feel free to follow the link in the description or reach out to me via email and I can share those with you.
My 2-year-old says 10 words. Everyone tells me he's just a late bloomer. When should I actually start looking for professional help?
So your 2-year-old, your toddler, not being able to say a wide range of vocabulary words is definitely a common concern. I would say that by the age of 2, we want your kiddo to have a vocabulary of at least 50 words, and we want them to be able to start stringing together 2-word phrases at that age as well. I would also urge you to take an inventory of your child's vocabulary words that you've heard him or her say before, because he probably has more words than you realize. And that can be kind of a soothing thing for you to say, oh, okay, I'm a little bit more happy now because I realize he's got more words than I thought he did. So take that inventory. But the main thing whenever your kiddo is not talking is just model, model, model. You want them to be able to comment on things that they see in the environment. You want them to be able to go back and forth with you whenever you're playing games or if you're interacting with their favorite toys. So the main thing is for you to just model that speech, model saying, oh goodness, look, there's a tree whenever you're outside. When you're playing a game, you can say, oh, it's not my turn, it's your turn. I would try doing those at home and then just some play-based activities. Just get into your child's world and start playing with them. That way you can help them increase their vocabulary overall.
What is one activity I can play with my toddler tonight to help them make new sounds?
So activities that you can do with your child really should revolve around play, honestly. So you can do these at the dinner table. You can do these whenever you have free time. I love to do bubbles with kiddos because you can talk about popping the bubbles, and that gets them to bring their lips together and make that P sound. So they're learning different sounds that way. And I just love to get into their world and play their games with them. Whatever, if they have Legos, if they're into that, if they're into building blocks, anything with a sound that's going to have like both of your lips coming together are a really good one to do whenever they're a toddler, because those are very visual sounds. He can look at you and see what you're doing and then be able to model that more easily.
If I start speech therapy now, what does progress actually look like in the first 30 days?
So speech therapy progress is different for any child, and it kind of depends on what the concerns are and how severe their difficulties are. So if you have a kiddo that maybe is having a hard time saying the R sound who is 4 years old or 3 years old, then it might take them a little bit longer to get that sound because of all the instruction that goes along with the R sound. If you have a kiddo who is 5 or 6 years old and they need therapy on the R sound, they have a better understanding of the rules that you give them and the instructions that you provide in order for them to be able to follow your directions as well. So they might get through therapy in maybe 6 months. If they have some language concerns and they're having difficulty getting the vocabulary words out, things like that, that could take a little bit longer. But we always say as speech therapists that we don't have a crystal ball. So, and every kiddo is different, so we just have to follow them along every stage where they're at.
People always tell me my child's speech is cute, but I'm worried because the teacher says she can't understand him. Is it too late to fix these habits?
So whenever your kiddo has some articulation challenges, some of them can be very cute when they're 3 and 4 and they're saying that wascally wabbit instead of saying the rascally rabbit. Those things are very, very cute at that age. However, I always tell parents that kids grow up and they're going to grow up. And so then you don't want them to be an adult who is in a speaking situation when they still can't say their R's. But to answer the question of is it too late to address it, it's never too late. So even if you are an adult who still has difficulty with the R sound, you can always address it. We have many different people, different ages that have maybe articulation concerns with the R sound. Some have fluency concerns. These things can happen well into adulthood. So if it's something that is impacting them and it's changing how they interact with people, you always want to address it.
Are there certain sound patterns that are red flags for parents to look for when talking to their child?
There can definitely be some sound patterns that will be, I don't like to call it a red flag, but that could be a red flag for you just to kind of nudge you to maybe do something about it or ask questions about it. We call these for kiddos that are younger, like between the ages of 2, 3, 4, we typically call these phonological processes. So what those are their vocabulary is just growing so much and doubling at that age range that they try to find easy ways to say the harder words and the bigger words that they're learning. So that's when we see the W for R, or maybe saying T for K, and if they can't say the k sound, they'll say a T instead. So you'll hear tat instead of cat. So a kiddo trying to get their words out and with a bigger vocabulary, so they have to find easier ways to say those harder words.
So how much practice at home is actually effective without making my child feel like they're doing schoolwork?
The at-home practice is definitely a big issue, a big concern for speech therapy in general. And the answer is, for how much you should do, the answer is that it depends on what your kiddo is working towards. It depends on if it's just articulation. It depends on if it's language concerns and vocabulary concerns. I like to have kiddos do smaller, shorter sessions of practice. So maybe a few times a week, they'll work with you for 5 to 10 minutes. It might be in front of a mirror. It might be just in front of you, face to face, so that you can give some tips on how they need to move their articulators, their lips, their tongue, their teeth, their jaw, all those things. For language concerns, I recommend a little bit more practice, maybe 15 minutes a few times every week, just so that they can have the consistency of using those new skills that they're learning. I always do say as well, some parents like to make kiddos talk at the dinner table or on their way to school or on their way home from school. Especially on their way home from school, I like to give students a pass because they've been using their best speech and their best vocabulary, their best language all day for their teachers, their classmates, the school staff. So they're just like adults. They're just like we are. Whenever we have had a very long day, we need a moment as well. So I like to give them a pass in the car so they can just kind of veg and let their minds roam. And then once you get home, you can have a set schedule of doing like 5 to 15 minutes of practice a few times a week. So if you have a concern about your child saying the R sound, I have many different tips and tricks and practice activities that you can do at home. Feel free to follow the link in the description or reach out to me via email, and I can share those with you.